What's up, guys? Welcome back. Yano here. Dive number 2 of Bull Shoals 2021. So I get these emails from YouTube that they send to content creators, which I suppose I'm classified as a content creator now. One of them said that a great majority of the YouTube videos start with the phrase, "What's up, guys?" or "Hey, guys." One of those two. Anyway, that's boring, so I'm going to have to think of something more creative than that. We'll see you in the next video. Anyway, we're now staring at the dive profile for dive number 2. This one might be a little more interesting. This was during the day. This was the morning dive on the second day, first full day there. As you can see, dive time was 53 minutes. We went down to 51 feet. And it chilled down to 64 degrees. I forgot to even speak about the icons on the graph last time. The green, you can't even really see it here because it's all the way on the left and kind of cut off, but that's a green backing with squiggly lines in it. All that means is that's when the dive started. You see the red icons on the right side, towards the right side, with it almost looks like a hammer in them. That's an ascent warning. Oh, that's an arrow. Not a hammer. That makes more sense. Diagonally pointed up arrow. Yeah, that just basically means that I went up too fast and my computer screamed at me for it. So, better job slowing down the ascents in the future. And that one all the way at the end is a caution triangle. That is a tissue level warning. I don't really know what that means. Too much nitrogen in the blood, maybe? This is the temperature overlay. It's kind of interesting. You can see it go down, 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 kind of plateau when we get towards the max depth. And it goes up as we get towards shallower water. Something interesting about diving, and I've learned this is the case, especially in freshwater, is you have distinct thermoclines, meaning there's a distinct change in temperature in a very short amount of depth. You know, you'd think it all kind of be mixed together and the temperature would gradually change as you go down. That's really not the case. Especially in freshwater, I've learned. The ocean seems to be more mixed together in my experience. But these freshwater lakes, quarries that I've been in, they have distinct levels of temperature change. Anyway, you can't really see that in the temperature graph here because, like I said, it's not an instantaneous temperature change. It's gradual change, just like a real thermometer works. But if you ever go diving, that's something you'll certainly run into. And I also decided to throw in the pressure overlay. You can see that here. Not terribly exciting, just kind of cool information. Pressure gradually drops. As you go deeper, you breathe denser air. So the pressure really should be dropping off at a faster rate than in shallower water, and you can kind of see that. But that's pretty steady for the most part. Anyway, let's get into the footage. Here we are. Much easier to see things on the surface, at least during the daytime. You may have heard a weird cut in that last video. I botched some of the audio. I was talking about the thermoclines, and I said it's more prevalent in shallower water. That's incorrect. I meant to say fresh. So I cut out the shallow part, put in the fresh. It sounds a little weird, but I didn't feel like re-recording the entire thing. Anyway, here we are, descending, down, down, down. If you recall the dive profile, we went down pretty quickly here. It looks like a pretty steady drop down to about 47 feet. There's some bottom coming into view. Get a look at those rocks. I don't recall anything particularly interesting on this dive. I think we were just swimming along, happy to be in the water. You can tell the visibility is not that great. Some poor shrub that didn't quite make it. So the water level in this lake changes drastically. It's a man-made lake. I think it was made back in the 50s. Perhaps the 60s. Yeah, so they have a dam that they can do whatever they want with this lake level. Picking it up a little later in the dive. I was going to mention, I just ran out of time. You may have seen my buddy holding the rock with the rope in the last video. That was actually attached to the dive flag. And he was carrying it out into deeper water. Obviously that lets boats know there's divers around, so they're supposed to avoid the flag by giving it, I think, a 200-foot berth. I don't know. I don't drive boats, so I should know what that rule is, but I don't. Anyway, unless something goes terribly wrong, we shouldn't be popping up in the middle of the lake anyway. But here we are. As you can tell when I turn my light off, this is what's called green water. Out in the ocean you get blue water. Both of those can be color corrected, and that's probably something that I should look more into. I have done that in past videos. The reason I kind of stopped is because processing video takes a long time. And I have so many of these videos after a dive trip that I just kind of want to get them uploaded and don't want to spend a whole lot of time in the lab editing them. But now that I'm adding voiceovers to all my dives and splicing all the segments together into one long video and adding the dive profiles to the beginning, I might as well throw some color correction in there. So maybe that will come shortly. Maybe you'll see that shortly in dives to come. But not this one. I took an interest in this. Oh, found some Miller Lite. Look at that. Well, you can't see it when I shine my light on it. Far too washed out. It's always nice to have an underwater beer, you know. Look at this. That was delicious. Yeah. Takes the edge off down there, you know. I'm kidding. I don't drink and dive. But I do try to pick up trash when I find it. Yeah, I've found some vintage beer cans. I found some vintage beer cans on this trip. They've probably been down there for 20, 30 years. Gotta be a little careful. The aluminum can get sharp. There's usually muck in the cans, the bottles, as you can see. I'm trying to get some of that out. It's a fruitless effort, no doubt. And you want to crush these up and put them in a BCD pouch. I really need to pay better attention to the video slider at the bottom of these videos. I get to yammering on and the end sneaks up on me. As I was trying to fit in at the end of the last video, or in the last segment, rather. I'm constantly worried that I'm crushing up these aluminum cans. Sharp edges are going to cut a hole in my BCD, and that's going to be trouble, but probably a ill-founded worry. I don't think the aluminum is that sharp. Anyway, not much to see here, not much to say. We're probably at our max depth. We actually learned later, we went down to 50 or so feet for this dive. 50, what did the profile say? Anyway, we had another group go down to 70, and they said the visibility really opened up. And you can tell it's still pretty murky here, so we must have just missed it. We must have been right on the floor of the clouds here. It's a little colder down there, but personally, I always prefer the better visibility in exchange for temperature. Give me the cold if I can see. That's my that's my motto. Anyway, just wasn't meant to be on this dive. Lots of rocks, lots of silt, no fish. The fish don't come down here, not that we saw. Fast forwarding to a shallower part of the dive. I imagine so because visibility looks better, the water looks less green, and oh, I found a rock with some moss on it. I was checking that out. It's like a fine carpet. That was actually pretty common, but that was the first time I got a pretty good look at it, so that was actually an interesting point in this segment. That's the scent warning. Did you hear that? Maybe you didn't hear it. I do reduce the volume of the audio in the video when I do the voiceover, just because it's mostly water sounds and bubble sounds, and but there was a I'm pretty sure that was my computer complaining that I was ascending too fast. Oh, I'm going 2 hands after that fish. Nope, okay. Of course, the whole point of the ascent warning is, if you're familiar with the bends, or DCS, decompression sickness, it's just like, when you go down at depth and breathe in pressurized gas, you're actually breathing in more air molecules than you are on the surface. The magic of scuba is the regulator delivers air to your lungs at the surrounding pressure. That's the only way it works. If you were to take a hose and use it as a snorkel and go 20 feet down, you wouldn't be able to breathe because the water pressure is too high, even though you have an air supply. So you breathe in this pressurized air. It's denser air than what you have at the surface. More nitrogen enters your bloodstream. It becomes dissolved in your bloodstream and your tissues. And if you pop to the surface too quickly, it comes out of solution in the form of bubbles, just like when you shake up a Coke and open it. And that can be extremely painful, and in extreme cases, even deadly. So, I'm nowhere close to that actually happening with the ascent warning, but it's just the computer saying, hey dummy, slow down, you're going up too fast. We did come to a shallower part here at the end of the dive. You can see that in the dive profile. It's warmer here. This is where the fish hang out. I presume they don't like the cold water. I think these are sunfish that we've been seeing. Is that? Oh, he was a curious fella. What's up, buddy? Sometimes you get scared fish, and sometimes you get genuinely curious fish, and sometimes you get fish that'll nip you. That, I don't think has happened to me, but it's come pretty close before. They must be quite curious, at least some of them. Some of them are just scared. Still mostly rocks, and shrubs. And silt. And the final segment of this dive. This is after the safety stop. We are ascending still slowly. I don't have enough time to talk about a safety stop in this video, so I'll save that for another one. But, boom, up to the surface, and we missed the boat. Surface swim time back to the boat.